So the big question is this: how do most agents who don't have access to the secrets that the top agents in our industry hoard to themselves grow and prosper in today's real estate environment? That's the question. And this video podcast is the answer. I'm Pat Hyben, and welcome to Real Estate Rockstars.
Rockstar Nation, this is Aaron Amuchastegui. I am back with Paul Morris for State of the Market on Real Estate Rockstars. You know, Rockstars, I shot a text to Paul earlier today and said, hey, do you want to jump on and do State of the Market with me today to talk about the coronavirus? It's really hard right now to go find real estate news or any news at all that isn't talking about this. You know, 2 weeks ago, Pat Hyben and I got on here and we were doing the State of the Market. And that was one of the items we talked about was the coronavirus and maybe some potential impacts that could be happening. But I know for sure now as we look back, there was no way 2 weeks ago we had any idea what we were going to see this week. You know, 2 weeks ago, I flew out to Maui and I got there and, you know, right when I got there, I was talking to my brother and we were looking around. We're like, this place is busier than ever. There's tons of construction. And all I was thinking was we are in the best economy ever. The housing market is booming. Real estate is booming. Everyone is wealthy. Everyone's out there spending their money. And it was 10 or 11 days later that we see like, whoa, you know, Las Vegas has, you know, closed all their hotels and casinos, you know, tens of thousands of people laid off, you know, entering the recession, entering what could be a housing market crash. And if you would have told me like 2 weeks ago, I'd have been like, you know, I feel like we're in a bubble, but I don't know what's going to cause this thing to burst. If you'd have told me a super flu was going to do it, man. So we go from there, stock market down something like 30%. And Paul, I wanted to throw that to you because I know you've been looking a little bit closer at the statistics, but you know, Rockstars, we're planning to talk about some coronavirus news today, how we think it affects real estate and what you can do about it. So Paul, what do you think?
So, yeah, I mean, really, these are historic times for sure. And I think these are times where we look for leaders to emerge. I also think there's a big opportunity, and we'll sort of hit on that in a minute as well. The stock market, the stats, you know, with about, you know, floating around a 30% decline, we're really at historic correction level. I mean, I could see like it going another like to 35%, but that's really, there's going to be some stopgap where folks are going to come in and really see this as buying opportunities. Also, unlike our previous 2008 issue, where the big economic correction was started by real estate, okay, and therefore disproportionately affected real estate. This one is not. This is not national; it's international. It's affecting everyone. So I believe that real estate is also a safe haven, safe harbor investment. We're going, you know, you can get a correction. And at some point in time, people are going to say, well, nothing's good. You know, let's look at real estate as an option. So I definitely think that. I looked at, you know, it's not about this, but I did look at some of the stats. I'll sort of go high level on some of the stats. CNN reported today they're surveying the state's health departments, and they reported 100th death in the United States. There's a bit of a tipping point with that, and now there's 5,130 cases reported in the U.S. That everyone says is wildly underreported because we're not testing for it. That said, an overwhelming majority of people will sort of be unaffected or very low level symptoms. And because of that, there's no way with our limited testing that those people are going to get tested. So I do think there's an underlying current of many more people have it. I do think that the stronger the government gets in terms of lockdown and action right now, the shorter this thing is going to play out, that for sure. And as I was scouring the net for the stats that are relevant for a state of the market, you know, and also I'm doing it for my businesses, you know, Amazon is hiring 100,000 employees because they are keeping up with online ordering. I think that you will see long-lasting shifts. So people will soon realize, hey, you know, we had to shift to lower expenses. We had to shift to more online. And I think the real estate profession can learn a lot from this.
Yeah, definitely a market shift. You know, I'm not a KW guy, but I heard that was one of the things that Gary Keller either officially emailed out or sent out to everybody. That we are now officially in that market shift. You know, some of us have been talking for a couple of years about how long is this housing boom going to go, and now it's that true shift. And that is a really interesting fact, right? Amazon now hiring 100,000 people. and there's going to be some of those, different businesses that there's going to be maybe some new niches pop up in this, some new service industries within that. They've closed today. They announced, so all restaurants in Travis County in Austin, Texas are closed. They haven't said shelter in place yet, but they're very close to that out here. So they've said restaurants can only be open now for takeout or drive-through. You can't be anywhere with 10 or more people in the room, or it's $1,000 fine. So that was big. But Paul, you're out in LA. And you guys, I think San Francisco and LA got the order for shelter in place, right? Like, when did that come in, and how long is it going to last?
Well, LA has not done shelter in place yet. San Francisco has done. New York City, the mayor announced today, get ready for shelter in place orders. And, that's 8.4 million residents in New York City that will be in a shelter in place order. So this is really, it's unprecedented. Sometimes I think the optics of it are actually worse than what's going on. When I turn on the television, which I try not to do, and, see these giant sporting matches played to empty stadiums, I'm like, it looks like the end of the world. But I will tell you, one of the things as a leader, and you can, and real estate nation, Rockstar Nation, you can be this leader for your clients. And these can be unprecedented times for you as well. And that's do things, be a leader in this. You can run, there's a lot, I was on a conference call with Gary Keller yesterday, and there are a lot of things are contagious. Coronavirus contagious for sure. Fear is contagious, right? Panic is contagious. And also, it doesn't mean stick your head in the sand, but also hope and lots of other things are contagious as well. So I do think that a shift in what we're doing is important. I have ownership in more than 10 real estate offices, and I have oversight of over 30. And I'll get off of this podcast and get on a leadership call, which I'm leading, talking to all the business owners and managers. And I'm saying, hey, the good thing here, and realtors are the ultimate entrepreneur, right? If you don't close a deal, you don't get paid. All right. So what is somebody tuning into this? How can we help them? And, one thing, it's old news, but it's right out of the Shift book is, make sure you learn how to live on less. I do believe this is going to be a period of time, where we're going to have this health crisis, but then also there's going to be business tail whiplash, et cetera, on that. And so we really need to cut expenses tremendously. And the other thing too, it's a little bit counterintuitive, but a podcast like this cannot exist without, saying lead generate. It's a lifeblood of a realtor's business. How do you lead generate in times like this? Is it crazy to say that? And I will tell you, it's not crazy. And we've gotten from the field. Here's my news from the field. Best practice emerged was just an I care phone call. So it can be, you take all of your top clients and you just go down the list and call them and say, hey, Aaron, it's Paul, man. I just want to let you know, I really care about you. And, how's your wife? How are your girls? Are you back from Hawaii? That sort of thing. You're like, wow, that Paul's cool. And here's the thing. It's not just all about business. I actually do care, right? I did text Aaron and say, hey, how are you doing? Because I care. He's a good guy. And I'm doing it with all my managers. Now, look at your phone, okay, and see the messages that are coming in, not just out. Who are the folks? Obviously your family, close family. They're like, Aaron, how are you doing? What's going on? And then it just drops off. And it's not a bad thing. It's like, we're scared, man. But on the other hand, it kind of, first of all, it makes me feel better, right? It's good for me. And secondly, I get to be one of the people that care. So, now's a good time to learn those lessons. And that's a call it what you want. I would call it a move from the heart, but I would say, that it's also a great business move for sure.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I think the real estate market right now is going to slow for a period. It's going to have to, right? There's no open houses. There's some things we're going to be talking about. I think some of the ones that I have in escrow right now are still going to close, but we're trying to close them as quick as we can. And so are the buyers, because we're not quite sure what's next. But some of those best practices now, agents, the real estate market's not dead forever. It's not even dead. So do those best practices, get on the phone, calling those clients, see if they need anything, see if anyone needs anything. This is our network. This is our base. And then I love the thing you said, that fear is contagious, but so is leadership. So
Yes.
is calm, cool planning and processing. And that's the way I've been trying to talk to my family and my girls, and remembering remembering September 11th, and remembering 2008 and 2009 of the crazy housing crashes and what that did. And part of me feels like, all right, we've been waiting for this forever. But man, I am so underprepared because it only took a couple of weeks. And so I did the same meeting with my team today and said, look, it might feel weird for a few months, but this is something that we've been ready for and we've been prepared for. And there's been a lot of things we've been able to kind of predict this week because of some similar things they did back around September 11th and the financial crisis in 2009.
Right.
Not all of it's shocking. Some of it's a little shocking. I was going to talk about a few things on here and see what impact, and maybe just for our real estate agents out there, things they should be thinking about. So in a lot of the bigger states, and not all of our listeners are from, California and Texas and Colorado and New York. We have people all over the US, but a lot of trends follow. So right now we've got a lot of building departments that are getting closed because they said non-essential businesses don't need to be opened anymore. We had filed an eviction on a tenant, and we got an email from the judge yesterday that said, hey, we are going to put a hold on all evictions, on all court cases. So we're going to put a hold on all court cases, whether they're with anything, for at least 30 days. So your eviction hearing has now been postponed 30 days. Yeah. I saw some specific stuff in the news about like some 90-day, eviction deferrals in some places. Courthouses being closed in some locations. A friend of mine sells probate leads, and they've said, look, we don't know if we're going to be able to sell probate leads as much leads for real estate agents because they aren't going to have any probate cases. Yeah. Have you heard anything about those, building department, evictions, courthouses, that sort of stuff yet? Yeah.
And one of the things that, is a direct impact is I talked to one of my colleagues in San Francisco, right, that's on lockdown. And they said, the recorder's office is closed. And I'm like,
they can't sell a house then.
Well, and here's the thing. So I didn't have a chance to follow up with him. Okay. And I was just like, oh my gosh, wow. Let me think on that. I appreciate you called me as a heads up. And I immediately went to our escrow company. I went to our people in leadership on that side. And they said, look, even if it gets shut down, all of the online stuff is still going. So we really, for example, refis. Okay. I mean, refis are going full force because the interest is low. People now apply online. You can get apply and approval online. You can record those things electronically. So our title company is saying, hey, we're good to go. Even if they shut down the office physically, and that's what my people said to me when I told them that news. They're like, okay, wait, do they say shut down or do they mean like the office is shut down? Because if the office is shut down, we're still good. And I'm like, oh, actually, I don't know, but I do know for LA that even if the office shut down, as long as they had their end still going, we're ready to go.
Yeah, I think agents out there, you guys should talk to your escrow companies, talk to your places, because every county's different, every city's different. I know plenty of places do digital recording, and that's there. But it's super interesting to me of what that can mean and for how long. And I think that if agents, after you talk to your escrow officers, if they say, there is a chance that we won't be able to do recordings for a couple of weeks, start to prep your clients now. Start to get, creative out there. I think one of the deals that we're selling was supposed to sell in about a week and a half, and they're closing tomorrow now. Yeah. Like on Friday, they were like, we got to get this thing closed now. They were kind of dragging their feet, and they said, we got to get this closed now for fear of that. There could be more opportunities for agents to say, look, we know this thing is going to close and everybody comes back online. Let's do, you can rent the house. You temporarily rent the house. You can move into the house now, temporarily rent, something like that. There's added risks with that. Do you think there's going to be much of that going on?
Oh, you mean like a sale lease back?
Well, like, hey, we're gonna close in 2 weeks, but the family's ready to move. We'll rent it from you until it closes, something like that.
Yeah, it's just one of the many. It's one of the many creative things. I'll go back to sort of a global thing. When I one of the texts we exchanged, I forget what my question was, like how are you doing? What do you think? And Aaron's response to that was interesting. Okay. Yeah. Interesting times, or I'm remaining curious. And I'm like, wow, okay. That's something we got to mention on the podcast, because these, you can be in fear, right? Or you can be in like absolute, stick your head in the sand, it's not true hope. Neither one of those are really all that helpful. But if you can stay aware and curious, These are going to help. So you'll find some interesting ways to close. You know, it was in my reach out to all these people, for me, doing, you know, being a helping hand to them, that there was one of my folks that came back and said, you know, I'm doing just these eye care calls, and it has made a huge difference. A sale leaseback is obviously a very creative thing. I don't think that we can do that, you know, on a massive level, but hey, guess what? You're one realtor with one deal and you need that deal to close. That's a good tip for sure.
Yeah. Find a way to save the deal.
And there also is going to be, you know, there also is going to be some pent up demand. There are people that, you know, there are people from New York and LA, people move back and forth. There are people in New York that, hey, we're set to move to LA and now they're on lockdown. They're not moving yet. So they're not out looking for houses. They're not whatever, but that's demand that will exist as soon as we come out of this. And one thing for sure is that the marketplace behaves when we are in an upcycle. The marketplace behaves and people around, they're like, yay, it's so good. It's going to always be good. And we know that's not true. Well, guess what? We are now in a real unprecedented time, but I'm going to tell you, it will be over and we will be back. And the question is, will you be ready when you get back? Make the eye care call, stay in touch with your database. These are things that are going to really, really help you. And then just be creative and be aware and look around. And if you're a half a step away ahead of the masses that aren't doing anything, you'll come out of this really, really on top.
Real Estate Rockstars. This is Aaron Amuchastegui. And as you know, when you've been hearing these episodes, so many of our guests give us lots of free gifts and share the tools they've been using to become successful. We've got free real estate tools, scripts, ebooks, marketing materials, and more. We keep track of everything in our vault, and it's updated with new items each and every week. If you want access to that stuff, it's totally free for being a listener. All you have to do is go to agentsuccesstoolbox.com, agentsuccesstoolbox.com, and get your free gifts now. Yeah. Keep looking at those deals too. I mean, you could always, they can be looking at offers. You can still write offers with clients, or you could be like, hey, do you want me to keep looking for you while it's here? Here's some other ones. People don't want to be thinking about the fact that they're stuck in a house right now. So being able to, but first and foremost, make sure people are okay. That was the first thing I said to all my employees today. Do you guys have the supplies you need? All right.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, do you have the supplies you need? Are you okay? Like, do you need anything? Do you need toilet paper? Do you need any of the crazy stuff that people have hoarded?
Yeah.
Yes. And staying curious out there right now. This is unprecedented historical times, right? I compare it to September 11th. I compare it to 2007, 2008, those crashes, a lot of the different things that we've seen. And no one could have predicted this. I couldn't have predicted this. I've been trying to predict what would cause the next recession, and I couldn't figure out anything. And this is totally out of there. So figuring out, the world's response to this and how it affects the future. One of the things I read too was that the good news about all this, one of the good news is coronavirus is not as deadly as like SARS or Ebola, right? So how lucky are we that although we have this super communicable disease, that right now this could just be a trial run of what it's like to have to, shelter in place and be ready. And so we've got to learn a bunch of stuff at a fairly low risk disease as far as my understanding of it. And so that's that's maybe a silver lining that hey, this is practice, we'll get better at this. In a few weeks, we should all be back in normal and back at it. A couple other kind of real estate things that I think are important out there. So Airbnb. So Airbnb, short-term rentals, investment properties. If people are trying to sell properties that are short-term rentals or hotels, that sort of thing, the prices are definitely taking a hit this week. I've got a bunch of Airbnb properties, and we lost an absolute ton of bookings on Saturday and Sunday. One of them was going to be a giant wedding in Northern California, and that one got canceled. And and there's nothing you could do, right? I was like, of course, right? She's like, hey, I want to have a big wedding, and they told us we're not allowed to have a big. Yeah, of course, nothing she can do about it. Yeah. I don't know how long it's going to have. That house I was going to keep out there as an Airbnb investment, no matter what, And now I'm telling myself, hey, if the summer doesn't really make up for this, it might not be a house that I keep forever as an Airbnb. I might need to sell it because of the way that market acts. Have you heard much about that? Do you think that's going to have a huge impact on a lot of the real estate market, some of the real estate market?
Yeah, I do. I think what you see in any sort of in any downturn, for example, is your second home markets. I have a house in Palm Springs, and prior to this happening, I was getting the thing ready to sell. I mean, seems like pretty bad timing because I didn't get it sold, and I could have. The second home markets are affected first. The travel vacation areas are affected first. And these are the things that boom when times are great. And these are the sort of feast and famine. I have properties that I invest in out in LA, and I have properties invest in back in Pittsburgh, where I'm originally from. It's more of a regular Midwestern town. And the last correction we had, people were like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I'm like, "We weren't invited to the party, so I guess we don't have the hangover." Yeah. Things vary by region for sure, and they vary by category. Your second home markets, your vacation rentals, that sort of things, you can sort of expect them to screech to a halt. I mean, if you didn't sell prior, then, I would not necessarily recommend, I'm going to relook at this, I'm finally able to sell the house in Palm Springs, I'm not selling it all, at any cost. If it drops below a price where I think we'll get, there are opportunities to buy at the end of this, and holding is the same as buying, really.
Yeah, I think, yes, holding is the same as buying. And so for agents out there too, it can be something that we're starting to look at out there. There could be investments that people had as, vacation rentals and things like that were kind of priced out as a home, and, as itself. But now that they're not some of those sellers are going to be more willing to sell right now. I'm more willing to sell my Northern California house than I was a week ago, which is crazy. So the stuff and at the same time, this will all come to an end. And in a few weeks, it may be better, or in 6 weeks, it may be better, or I may see a whole bunch of Airbnb replacement. Who knows how that's going to go? But I think that definitely, that's been a new asset class, really. Airbnb investments is a new asset class in the last couple of years, that people have bought houses specifically for VRBO and Airbnb. And so that asset class is going to take, it's definitely taking a hit this week. I've talked to a lot of different people that have lost those. And, but at the same thing, anything that's taking a hit could also be an opportunity for any of you agents out there for when we come out of this, or people that do have cash to be able to buy properties. So so no open houses. That was a thing that's been announced a couple different places. Do you think there's a replacement for the open house? Do you think there's anything that those agents could be doing to try to market it during this time?
Well, there is, there are 3D home tours there, we're using that. There are a few companies that do that. Some of them are very, very good. Is somebody actually going to buy a house without ever walking through it? I mean, I'm maybe the person who would do that. I'm not sure that other people do that. Definitely you can market and create hype around it. Instead of having an open house, getting to the point where people submit an offer before they come and see the house, or figuring out a way to really get it down to the most serious things. Believe it or not, in LA, they have not canceled open houses yet. Right. I think it's a good idea to cancel them because that's really a hotbed for transmission. So many people in and out of the house, touching everything, that sort of thing. I got a message from one of my managers because I'm checking in with everybody. How are you doing? He said, we still have 18 open for this weekend, 18 houses open for this weekend. And we'll see what happens. Another house that, same guy told me, we have one house, it's in a lower price point, and it's well priced, not a screaming deal, but well priced. They had 24 offers on it. So things are still happening, even in the hot, but I can't imagine that, if you're on shelter in place orders like New York City, and or San Francisco, we're probably going to get that in LA soon. I mean, I have to believe that most transactions grind to a halt.
It's going to have to be a lot harder. People do want to see and touch stuff. But one of those silver linings too is we haven't had any of our deals fall out yet. We haven't had a lender not fund anything yet. I had a couple that made me nervous, and it ended up going through just fine. I guess if you have one of those open houses, so do you have a box of rubber gloves when people walk in or out to that open house? Hey, you can come in and touch everything, but put these on first.
Yeah, I think there will be precautions for sure, and being ahead of that will definitely help. It's one of the supplies that we're low on. I mean, I used a very low level way of stocking my house, and I went online. I'm not going to run into the grocery store with the lines and the crazy. And I just said I went online. I picked the stuff that was available for immediate delivery. Everything else, like, it'll be a week or 10 days. Well, if you're nervous, you don't want something a week or 10 days. But guess what? I clicked yes anyway. It doesn't hurt. And before you know it, it's 10 days ago and my house is totally stocked. So I got a bunch of stuff. I went back to do a little bit more. There's nothing available right now. But we totally can, just be looking a little bit into the future. And I'll just say, because I know we have to close off pretty soon. Yeah. And I'll just say that, yes, these are unprecedented times. Now is a great opportunity for realtors to be leaders in their areas. Don't spread panic, don't spread fear, spread leadership. As you said, Aaron, good point. Be the person that cares. Go out there and just if you send a text message to every person individually in your database, you will get a swarm of answers, and people will remember that. And it is because you care, and it's also great for business. So cut your expenses and figure out creative ways to stay in touch with your people. And when this thing is over, which it will be over, when it's over, and your point too, it may not be as big of a health crisis. It could be, but it still will be over. And when it's over, there are ways to be at the top of the market.
Yeah. And we're not saying it's going to be over soon or late or anything. We're too early on that, but everything will come to an end, and we will end up getting through it. So be that leader at that beginning, and try to see where those opportunities are. Instacart is a grocery delivery. That's what we did. And Instacart's getting busier. Amazon's hiring those drivers, Uber Eats, all those different places. There is a market shift and kind of a new industry. And it may be just ways for people to get through some of maybe the fact that Amazon's hiring that many is going to offset the fact that a lot of people can't work at the casinos in Vegas right now. So there's a lot of different things that we're going to see out there. We won't have time to get into more, but I'm sure next week we'll be talking about it, but we'll see what's next and what's happened and what's changed out there. But, real estate is an awesome thing. Right. Yeah. And it is so huge out there that it's always impacted by other things that are out there. But this week, we couldn't find any real estate news that didn't have something about the coronavirus. And Paul, I appreciate you jumping on so quickly today for us to get to talk about this and your insight, because you're in one of the places where it's a big deal. I'm in one of the places where it's a big deal. Yeah. And I just hope that everybody, makes the best of this. And when we come out of it, we're on the right side.
Well, and I think, the folks that tune into this are already, as you said, curious, which is good. And that's why we want to make sure that we're true to that and giving a message to, look, we're not about false hope. We're not about stick your head in the sand, but we're also not about spreading the panic. So whatever this is, there are activities that you can do that will make a huge difference on the way out. So we would love the listeners for this show to be a step ahead of everybody else. And I think that's easy to do. Yep.
Go be a step ahead. Take care of yourselves out there, Rockstar Nation, and we will talk to you soon. Paul, thanks for coming on.
Stay well. Thanks.
Rockstar Nation, thank you for listening to Real Estate Rockstars. Listen, I need a favor. If you find this free content helpful, if you find our downloadable items from each guest helpful, please, I need you to pull out your pointing finger. Yes, the one finger that points at people, and hit subscribe. Yes, subscribe. The more subscribers we get, the better we look in the ratings, and the easier it is to get guests like Robert Kiyosaki, Barbara Corcoran, all the players that are on $1 million listing in the different cities. All that stuff makes it easier the more subscribers we get, so please subscribe. And listen, there's a lot of places you can leave comments. There's a lot of places you can like. We're on Facebook. We have an Instagram page. Instagram page is I am Pat Hyben. The Facebook is Real Estate Rockstars Radio. Feel free to leave us comments there. The most popular form of commenting seems to happen on YouTube. Yes, for whatever reason, it's a very open environment. So just go to YouTube and go to Real Estate Rockstars Radio. Leave us comments there. Some of them we will read on the show. We love your feedback. So thanks, guys, and I hope you are having a great day. Oh, and also, listen, if you're going to subscribe and you haven't already left a review on iTunes, please do that too. Have a great day, and thanks so much, Rockstar Nation. I really appreciate you.